Hi everyone, welcome to the Alchemy Cafe where we create conscious conversations. And we're back today at the Maidstone, which was actually the site of the very first interview that I did. And we are in actually this really cool room. I have to say the energy in here is like amazing. In like a funky way, amazing. Anyway, I am so happy to have Christiana McMahon here today, who is do you actually call yourself a psychic medium or a psychic? What's your official title?
Psychic medium. They're two different things.
There's
psychic and there's medium, so I do both.
She does both. So, well, why don't you say what the difference is?
Psychic is somebody that reads the past, the present, and the future, and a medium is somebody that talks to the other side.
And you do both.
I do both.
I'm so curious, I was going to ask this later on, but I'm going to ask this now since it came up, about do they just come in to you, like, whenever, or do you have to actually call them in?
Well, you know what I do? I mean, everybody has their own way of doing things, and I generally, when I do a session, I have a private practice out here in the Hamptons, and, generally what I do is I'll just see what comes up. And so if somebody wants to step in to say something, or if somebody wants to ask me about someone that has crossed over, I'll do that. But I really like to go with what goes on. Mm-hmm. And I know some people say that they can call in whomever at any given time, but I'm not so sure about that, or that's just me. So that's kind of how I do it. I find that the minute that I try and control it or edit it, then it shuts down.
Yeah, I would imagine.
And we don't want that to happen. So.
Yeah, just kind of about allowing what shows up, and then you probably get so much more
right.
than if you try to force it, which is kind of true with most things in life.
Yes.
So I'm really curious to know when you first discovered that you had this ability.
Well, I was 6. I was 6. And I remember, 6 years old, I was very disappointed that humans walked around with so much fear. So that's when
At 6 years old?
At 6 years old. I just
wow.
And I believe that we're all telepathic. I really do. I think humans are. We just forget. And I was highly telepathic, especially with my parents. And I was like, wow, this is kind of an interesting planet here. This is a fun place. And why is everybody so afraid? So I ended up hanging out with the animals. So animals to me were just less complicated, and I had more fun with them because humans were troubled.
So where did you have a lot of pets? Where were you hanging out with these animals?
I did. I was in Texas, and I had a lot of animals. I had horses, dogs, cats, you name it. So I kind of spent my time around them quite a bit. So
okay, I am a huge animal lover. I mean, I'm really curious. Did you communicate actually with the animals?
Yes.
Could you sense their energy as well?
Yes, I remember going into the barn. We had a barn at the time, and telling my parents that these two horses didn't like each other, and you got to change that food. And they're like, how do you know this? And I think 9 times out of 10 I was right.
So they would tell you, or
they would tell me, or I would just pick up on the conversation.
Oh, I love that.
Yes,
I love that. I have friends that do that, and I'm so jealous. I talk to my cat constantly. He probably thinks I'm crazy, but I would love to know what he's saying.
Well, you probably do. You probably just have to feel. You have to receive it.
I know. I think I'm trying too hard, like you said. I'm trying too hard to trying to figure out when he just stares at me like, okay, what do you want?
Surrender, Laura.
Right.
Surrender.
I'm going to work on that. But that's so cool.
Yeah, no, it is, and to me it was more peaceful. And animals are they're primitive, and they're driven by other things than humans are. So I knew that, and then I informed one of my mother's friends that was crying that she lost her father, and I said, he's just right over there. And then I realized I wasn't supposed to really say that.
Well, I was going to ask about that, whether it was something that you sort of rejected and were kind of like, wow, not everyone is like this, or whether you embraced it and sort of as like a special gift.
Well, when I was in the 4th grade, I went to Catholic school. And I know my 4th grade teacher just didn't like me. And so I was like, I want to help her. You want your homeroom teacher to adore you. So I just knew I wasn't one of her favorites. So I walked up to her, and I used to see her in the lunchroom with her fiance. And he had his scrubs on. Obviously, he was going to be a doctor. She was probably in her 30s. And I said, your fiance is going to leave you in a week, but it's okay. There's going to be somebody else, and you're going to be much happier. And it was like, go to the principal's office. So it was really, really a big deal. So I remember going into the principal's office, and they were like, well, why would you say that? And I said, well, because I see it. And then the priest came in, what is this? And then a week later, he did leave her. So
And they were like, "You're hired."
right. No, it was like, keep
No.
your mouth shut.
Yeah.
So, and I remember as my child mind, I remember asking my principal, "There's something different about him. What is it?" And she was like, "What are you talking about? There's nothing different about him." And now that I look back with my adult mind, he was gay. So it's like I didn't have the words to articulate
the words,
it.
yeah, the
Right.
words, the
So
experience, or
that was the beginning of my career and the end of it. So I really rejected it most of my life because I thought that negative things came from it. So that's really I always say to people, this job chooses you, you don't choose it.
Right.
So I did a lot of other things with my life until I walked into this career. So.
Well, I'm curious. So you said you see things. So you see things as opposed to hear them or feel it, or is there a combination of?
It depends on where I am. It depends on the person. Sometimes I'm auditory. Sometimes I do see things. I mean, I do see a lot. Seeing is intimidating. Seeing is intimidating, but no, I do see quite a bit. So
when you hear things, you'll actually hear voices.
I hear voices. Yeah, I do.
Well, that's got to be a little bizarre too.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I
I'm
generally
sure you're used to it.
Yeah, well, sometimes I wonder, if I'm alone or not in my house sometimes. So it is intimidating, but it's definitely a sense that I have to manage it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that people say to me, "Oh, well, can you turn it off?" I don't really think that you can, because it's just part of who I am. So that's another aspect of it. I mean, people say you can manage it, you can turn down the volume, but I don't know, the older I get, the more the volume goes up.
Wow. Well, that brings up a couple of questions to mind. First of all, it must be difficult to be in a relationship with you because there's no getting anything past you, right?
Yes, that is very true. But what happens is
Unless you don't tell them.
Well, I mean, here's an example. I remember one morning, I dream a lot. I mean, I get a lot of information from myself in my dreams. And I really recommend to people, if you want to really, learn stuff about your life, I mean, if you go to bed at night and you ask your higher self and you say, reveal to me what I need to know, and you get up every morning and you start writing it down, it is amazing, the information that you will get. It's something you have to practice, but once you open that door, it comes. It really does. Because I look back and I'm like, whoa, because, people say, well, don't you know? And I say, well, you can't really cut your own hair, right? So it's not easy all the time, but I did have a dream one night, and I woke up and I said, oh my God, I had this dream that you were having lunch with this brunette. And it was like, I was pretty accurate. And the funny thing was, he didn't even believe me or pay attention to it. So it's just, and he was, so.
Yeah, it's hard to know
Yes.
what's a dream and what's really happening.
Right. Well, I was just picking up on something. So.
Well, you mentioned not being able to cut your own hair, which I was also going to ask about in terms of for yourself. It's like people that go into work helping others.
Right.
Many times they do it because they need to heal themselves.
Sure.
And I'm sure you can't just like call in and say, okay, gee, what's going to happen next week? I mean, you're probably much more intuitive than the average person in general, but I'm sure when it comes to yourself, there's certain blocks and the things you're probably not supposed to see.
Right. No, I think it's 50-50, but I have to say, I say to people all the time about intuition, everybody has it.
Right.
We all have it. I mean, men evolve through intuition. And I think that if we go back to the very beginning, like for example in a relationship when you meet somebody, if you really authentically take yourself back there and not about your expectation, and if you really thought about how you felt when you first met that person, you totally
we choose
know.
not to see.
That's right. So I was like, all right, I'm going to be really honest. How did I feel when I met this person? I was like, I got to get the hell out of here. That was one of my flashbacks that I had about meeting somebody that I did end up spending a significant amount of time with. But I think we're supposed to learn. So it was my learning curve, everyone's learning curve. But if we got really honest, it's true. Maybe it wouldn't be as fun, but or have the experiences we have. But I think that that we can really get. But I don't think a lot of people really want to go there.
No, they don't.
They don't really want to go there, unfortunately.
They'd rather just stay in the dark and just.
Well, I believe that, we come here to evolve, and I think that every person that comes to this planet is a brave soul, and some people come here and this is all they're going to do, and they're the level they want to achieve, and we have to just respect that.
Right.
It's really none of our business.
No, I agree with that. And people have their own level of evolution. And,
Yes.
I once read somewhere that you can't teach calculus to a second grader. And I kind of feel that in terms of dealing with certain kinds of people, they're at a certain level and don't expect more than they're at.
Yeah, it's like speaking another language.
Yeah, exactly. No, I totally believe that.
And it's hard to accept that sometimes when we care and we love people. It's it's not easy, but we have to accept people for what they are, or where they're at.
Right, exactly. So you made a decision at some point to actually do this professionally.
Yes.
What shifted to make you go that route?
Well, I was working with horses and I lived abroad, and I just had this moment where I thought, well, what if I get hurt? And
what were you doing with horses?
I was training polo ponies. I was living in Dubai. I was riding endurance horses. I was just with the animals, and I was kind of floating around doing all different kinds of things. And I was also helping the royal family buy horses. So I had a moment where I just thought, I don't know if I want to keep doing this, and I really wanted to come back to the States. And so I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I had no clue. So a friend of mine said, why don't you go to this astrologer? And I go, I believe in astrology. I like astrology. Astrology, it's a map, definitely. And it's a science. It's amazing what you can actually, derive from your birth time and date and place and all that. So this woman, she said to me, well, look, you're really a psychic. And I said, well, I know that. What am I supposed to do with my career? And so she said, well,
duh.
Yeah, right. And I'm like, what about my free will here? And she said, well, fine, Christiana, you can go and you can do whatever you want to do. She said, but you'll never rise to your potential if you don't step into this job. It's all right here. And I went, oh. So my ego went, excuse me? With a little bit of ego and a little bit of, rise to your potential, I started to pay attention. And then I decided I was going to check everybody out and see how they did it. So I went to the palm reader. I went to I went to the expensive person. I went to the medium person. I went to the person in the bookstore that did my tarot cards. I did all that. And I remember very, very consciously saying to myself, wow, a lot of these people are fakes, or they don't have it. And I thought, this is a job that can really help people. So I decided I was going to give the job integrity, because I know, back in the day, in the old caravans, it really wasn't a respected, gypsy type of thing. So, and I have come across a lot of people who've been very damaged by people that have taken a lot of money and have, really kind of deceived them. So I do a lot of damage control with that.
So would you say that, this is my understanding, is that you're not really a fortune teller. You're not going to say this is what is going to happen in your life. You're really kind of reading where things are at this point, if they stay on this path. Would you say that's correct? Or
Yes, I would say so. I think there's some things that are sheer destiny. I do believe that. And then I think we do have some free will in between, but not much. I do kind of think that. So I think that things are really definitely, like when you're supposed to meet somebody, you just do. Now how you get there and how you navigate there is your own choice. So but the past, the present, and the future is actually happening at the same time. That's what, if it wasn't, I wouldn't have anything to grab onto.
That's true. That's true. All the information is accessible to you.
It is. So it's in some things, like people will say to me, well, why didn't you tell me? And I'm like, well, you know what? I get what I get, and maybe you weren't supposed to know. So a lot of people are question that. Why didn't you tell me that I was going to lose my house? Or I gave you the information that came.
Right.
And I do like people to ask me questions, because then I can really get a lot of detail, which I'm good at, and I like to hone in on that. So.
Do you ever just have something pop into your head and you're like, oh my God, I wish I can tell them, but I just can't?
Yes, and it's called psychic etiquette. Because in the past, when I would kind of blurt it out, it could cause trouble. And I don't think that you're really supposed to do that. If somebody asks me a question about something, I'll answer it. But if something comes through that I don't think they can handle and they don't ask, I don't go there. I don't want to do that.
It's almost like, you kind of have to decide what, like, say someone is in a relationship that seems fine at this time, and you're seeing something down the line, and like, let them get there on their own.
Right.
Sometimes certain things need to be left.
Right. And look, when you're doing a reading, some people will say to me, oh, well, am I going to meet somebody else because I'm in this relationship? But a lot of times, some people can change, and it's an energy, and it can be the same person, but just they've shifted. So you never know. So it's kind of it's an interesting. I'm very careful when I look at something like that. That's why I get upset when people will say to me, "Okay, well, so tell me about who I'm meeting or what's happening," and they already have met somebody, and then they come back and they'll say, "Well, I am seeing this guy," and I'm like, "Oh God, well, you tell me. I mean, you didn't tell me at the beginning, so if it sounds right to you, then you have to be the judge of that." So yeah, people like to test me a little bit. That's okay. I don't mind. I like skeptics. I'm a skeptic.
It's good.
Yeah,
it's good.
I'm a skeptic.
So you have a lot of clients that come to see you privately. What would you say like the top, I'm sure I can answer this, the top 2 reasons why the top 2 questions or issues that people have?
Probably money and love, I would say. I always say love, sex, money, and real estate. But yeah,
not career as much.
It's not as much. Well, I guess I would put that in the category
the money bucket.
The money bucket as well. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people come to me to help navigate through work issues. I mean, I have a lot of Wall Streeters. I have a lot of people that come for lots of different things. A lot of business. I have really opened up to a lot of businessmen the last year, which is interesting. And it's so funny. They all have like the same opening line is, "I just would like your perspective on something." Okay. It's like, I'm
not really believe in what you're doing.
Right. I just want your perspective. Okay, no problem. Whatever you want to call it. They're calling a psychic, and they're calling me back.
That's really funny.
I know it is.
Very funny.
It is. But I think that people are becoming more conscious, and I think that people are not getting everything that they need on the couch anymore. I think people would like to have more of a spiritual spin on things, which is good. I think it's powerful.
So why do you think people call upon psychics and people that do the work that you do? Why do we not trust our own intuition? Because most of the time, you're telling them things that we already really know.
Right.
Why do you think we've gotten to the point where we're so far removed from that?
I think that there's an element of entertainment. I think people tell me things that they don't want to tell their therapist. And I think that they want another perspective, or they want someone to confirm what they already know.
Or clarity too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great word.
Like, I'm kind of feeling this. What would it be if you say it? Then it's like,
ooh,
it's getting the stamp.
Well, because I have to say I do spend quite a bit of time, giving, delivering news that people don't want to hear sometimes, and that's. But I think that people, they want that. They want the truth, and I'm not always correct. But people
that's
want
what you just
people
said,
want
and I
the
think
truth.
more so than ever, the truth is being revealed all over. I mean, you can just see.
Or you know what else I'll say? I mean, I think that a lot of times people come to me about, let's just say, for example, you come to me because a relationship ended and it ended over whatever, and then you ask me, well, what do you think it was? A lot of times I'll get other information about it, which will help you to understand to let go, and I do a bit of that. So it's kind of like tapping into somebody else to see what was going on. I'm like, well, it wasn't just that, it was his mother as well. And you're like, that's right, his mother. And you probably knew it, but I just confirmed it.
That's great.
So, and I think that when it's hard to move past issues if you don't understand why. I'm that
absolutely
way.
Oh my God, right? I will figure it out. I will tell you 5 different scenarios of what it could possibly be.
Sure. And then when the one comes to you that feels correct, you're like, oh, I'm released now. Oh, whew, okay. On to the next thing.
Yeah, it's so true.
Because I'm that way. If I don't understand something, I have a hard time letting go of it.
What sign are you?
I'm a Sag.
You're a Sag.
You're a Leo?
Taurus.
Leo rising.
Ooh, she's psychic. Psychic. Where's my moon?
Where's your moon? It's in water. All
right. We're not
Is it in water?
Libra.
Oh, okay.
So you're holding these cards in your hand.
I got my
so
tools.
Is this like one of the tools in your tool block? Is this what you usually
use? I like to use cards. I like to use different things because it gives me confirmation. Like if I'm doing something, I really want to, and I see it on my table, or if I'm with a client and I'm like putting some cards down, and they're like, they can see the story themselves, and it makes more of an impression, I believe. I don't really need them, but I like them. They're like my.
And what kind of deck is this?
This is just a regular tarot. Yeah, regular.
All right, so you have your deck in front of you.
I've got my deck with me.
Let's do a question. Luciana, our Videographer, would you like to ask a question?
I have a show coming up in March in New York City at Trump Towers, and I'm with a new art dealer, and I just want to know if it's going to be successful.
Oh, wow. You know, I have to say, I think it's going to be very successful. I like the people that you're partnered with. I also feel like you're going to go to another venue, and something is coming up in March. Okay, so there's another person that's coming to you about doing something else. All right. That's my.
So be open to all opportunities.
Yeah, I would, and the one thing that I'm picking up about you is I don't know if you're connected with the angelic realm, but I feel like I am tremendously. So when I see somebody's energy connected to it, you know, work with it because they're
work with the angels.
Yeah, they're present.
Oh yeah, I know that, and I've been working with them a lot the last few months.
Because I really get the feeling that they're going to really help.
They're helping
you.
me.
It's like connected to the question that you're asking me. So, and I am like, you know, really connected to the angels. So they're my people. I mean, I have to say, I went to a hospital, and it was a cancer ward for children, and I have to say, it was probably the holiest place I'd ever been, and I actually could see them in there. So
I love that.
It was remarkable. And I remember being there, and it was like the energy kind of shifted, and it was like everything slowed down. And I'm like, okay, so I'm not doing drugs, I'm not drunk. It was a really, it kind of took your breath away, and I realized, I'm like, what's going on in here? And I could see them. And what they were doing was, it wasn't necessarily like they were healing, they were balancing the energy in the space.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like.
So I want to bring this up, and I think it'd be interesting. Oh, are you finished with that? Are you going to do
yes.
any cards?
Does that make sense? I think you have, you know,
on many levels.
Yes, and also there's, you know, new relationship coming your way, on all fronts.
Oh, great! Thank you.
What's your question?
I find everybody always has a question when I read angel cards. They have a question, but they have a sub-question behind it. Do you get that too?
Yes.
Like a sub-question?
Right? They're waiting for you to they want it, yeah. It's kind of like, it's a leading question is what it is.
Yeah, okay. All right. So I'm not going crazy when
Okay. No.
Think about this.
So what's your question? What do you want to know?
I want to know if I am meant to be in a for life relationship.
Ooh.
Or for like the rest of my life. You know, there's a part of me that just is so independent and just, you know, likes the life like that, and then at the same time has this yearning for a partnership, and just really curious.
You know, the person that you're going to meet, you both haven't been ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I feel like what I'm getting is, it's kind of like, the card that comes to my mind is like the Hanged Man, and of course everyone goes, oh God, the Hanged Man. It means that, you know, delay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that sometimes, but really, if you look at the card, it really is about somebody being in suspension and achieving great enlightenment. So I think that for the person that's coming to you, it's somebody that has been held in suspension and has achieved great enlightenment, and it hasn't been right yet. But I feel like towards the end of this year, somebody's going to step in that's going to be quite significant. And I think that you're going to, what I'm hearing is so interesting. You're going to start to smell it. Like, you know, like when there's like that scent in the air, when you're like, something's going to be changing here. And it's like, you're just going to, like, every day that goes by, you're going to be like, yep, he's coming. Because I believe that we communicate with people that we haven't met yet. We're negotiating on the other side all the time. So you guys are in communication. He's tall, by the way. I can tell you that. He's tall, he's introspective, and he's very interesting. And the vibe that I kind of get about this guy is that he's a little bit of like the absent-minded professor in a way. Like,
God.
He's kind of like that. But he's got a very Aquarian energy to me. But when he's present, he's present. And I think
has to be smart.
What I like,
and funny.
Aquarians are
and
generally
silly.
Some of the smartest people on the planet, really. But I feel like he's got that very innovative mind.
Well, the reason specifically why I asked is that I've been so...
Is this the leading question?
No, I've just been so
it can be edited.
Untraditional in terms of like my views of marriage and having to get married and having to do these things that other people see as like these milestones. And to me, it was like, unless it's right, I don't want it.
Well, that's, I mean, don't you think you probably saved yourself
As I tell my mother, when I said, look, I could be divorced at this age and have gone through a lot of what other people went through, but I didn't.
Right, you didn't have to. No, I just think that everybody does it their own way, and I think that, but there is a person that's going to step in. So be ready.
Cool.
And it's funny, I always say to people, get ready, because that's when it gets interesting.
Right.
But no, I think that you've been working on other things.
Oh yeah, and I'm just getting started. Huh.
So you have a timeline for Laura?
Towards the end of this year.
How about for me?
For you, meeting somebody new, 6 months.
Really?
Ooh, by summer.
And you know what? I always round up because time can be tricky, so I always like to say within. Okay?
So not 10 years down the road?
No.
5 years?
No, actually, if it was that far off, I wouldn't be able to grab it.
Okay.
It would be harder for me to grab.
So where am I meeting this guy?
Yeah.
I believe you're meeting him through some sort of a group. Something that you are connected to, something, I don't know, it's a gathering of some sort. It could be.
Is it my work related?
No, I don't think so.
Really? Because I have this sense that it's going to be through this new project, that I'm working, that somehow it's, because that's kind of a dream of mine, is that we work together in some capacity, because my work is so kind of expansive and keeps getting more so.
Right.
But that would be really cool. Anyway, it's not a prerequisite, just putting it out there.
No, you can. I mean, but I think that it's going to be somebody that's in your realm, of course.
Right, of course.
For sure.
Right.
I don't feel like you're going to, go online and meet a doctor. I mean, that's just not. No. I'm not feeling that. I think it's going to be.
Sorry.
No, I don't really get that.
No,
I don't get that sense. It's
probably kind of out there. I always am attracted.
I get very Aquarian energy with this person. And they are.
I had a near miss with an Aquarian.
They are interesting.
Yeah.
They are very
Someone
interesting.
I loved very much. Anyway, that's all the story. So I want to bring up the fact that, because I think it's just too incredible not to mention, so you sense an intense energy in this room, and I'd love for you to just kind of talk about what you're feeling in here.
It's very intense.
What does it feel like to you for people that maybe don't have this ability? Kind of like myself. I mean,
you know, there's just like a lot of energy in the space, so it makes me. First of all, I have goosebumps
me
all
too.
over my arms.
Oh my god! I thought I'm just cold.
You're feeling it.
Yeah, and
oh my god! The whole time I've had goosebumps.
And I have to say, I'm a bit uncertain of how I'm sounding when I'm talking to you, because I'm pulled a bit. Like I feel like there's a real sense of
claustrophobic,
yes.
maybe, or not enough air. Like
right. Like there's just in it. I feel like it's crowded in here.
And there's only 3 of us.
Yeah.
Do they have to tell you something? Are they trying to tell you something to tell us?
No.
Okay.
No.
They're just.
They don't want to come forward.
No, I feel like this is just where they've existed, and this is where this was probably a space that they lived in. It could be. It doesn't necessarily have to be the structure. It could be the land. I mean, this is like Native American ground here.
And I do want to mention that. So we're at the Maidstone. We're actually in a hotel room. So this is a hotel, and when we walked in earlier, we were actually having a conversation with, I guess it was the manager downstairs, who just started telling us that there's spirits in this place, and there are guests that have left because they've seen people in their room and her experience. So before we even came up here, she was just telling us story after story.
I wonder if they got a refund.
I'll have to ask. Can you imagine staying in a room and all of a sudden there's a man in my bathroom.
Oh, wow.
So,
welcome to my world.
And this is an old building. And like you said, this land, there's a lot of history here. Mm-hmm. So it's not surprising that this kind of energy is here, but I love the fact that you and Luciana as well, who is also psychic, is picking up on the energy too. So I just thought it was really interesting to mention.
Definitely intense. I could certainly see somebody walking into the bathroom and there'd be somebody else standing in there. I could welcome to my world, to a degree.
Wow.
When I have one thing I've noticed is when I actually see somebody, a lot of times it is somebody that committed suicide, and one of their relatives is calling me for a session, and they show up beforehand. That's very prevalent. So it is quite a message.
Before we wrap up here, so people, I'm sure there's a lot of things that people don't want to know. Like we started the conversation with fear.
Right.
6 years old, you're saying how we're so fearful. And there's a lot of people that when they go to a psychic, they're fearful of what they're going to find out. So we talked about how important it is, and people want to know the truth. But yeah, there's a lot of people that are so afraid to know the truth. And wouldn't that just make things so much easier rather than either guessing or trying to figure out or making up stories around it? I mean, what's your sense in working with people that come to you fear-based?
I just think that a lot of times it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And you could say something, you can make a point and say it in many different ways.
Yeah, you can probably have a vision of something, and you can kind of soften the delivery so that people can.
Well, I mean, I always say I speak different languages because what I have to do is I have to
translate.
I have to pull the information and not only translate it, but I have to translate it to the person on their level that they can understand.
Right.
So that can be that's taken time to develop that. So.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, this was so
Yeah,
great.
thank you for having me. This is great.
So great.
Yeah, this is fun. Thank you so much. Yes, it's a pleasure. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.